to expand your life and reality? Join us for the next hour with Jamie Bates as she shares life-changing thoughts, techniques, and awarenesses to help you expand your reality.
Hello and welcome. I am Jamie Bates, consciousness facilitator and expander of realities. My mission with my radio show is to create greater awareness of what is possible and to expand you beyond the limitations of this reality. I am grateful that you're joining me today. And today, let's just chat about everything changing. We are in such an interesting time right now. So let's chat about what is currently going on energetically and why perhaps you feel like you just got hit by a bus. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling like you just got hit by a bus? Wow, are we living through some intensities right this moment here in this reality? Today is June 15th, 2020. And last night we just had that big strawberry full moon, right? Now let's just talk about that. Let's just start right there for a moment. So the strawberry moon that we had last night actually signified kind of the end of the lunar eclipse that we had last month. Now last month we had that shadow event lunar eclipse, right? Where for like a couple weeks before the lunar eclipse, we were starting to really feel those energies moving in. And then we had that really powerful lunar eclipse. I can't even remember what date it was in May. I want to say it was like maybe the 10th or something. Anyways, and then essentially we started all through that lunar eclipse, we started to see the shadow aspects of ourselves really loudly and clearly, right? There was a lot of places where it was like, oh yeah, I'm doing that, I'm being that, I'm choosing that, I'm creating that, right? And last month, it really gave us that opportunity to really see those shadow selves so we could really make new and better choices for ourselves. And that strawberry moon we had last night was kind of like the closing out of that lunar eclipse cycle, kind of the closing of that shadow event that we just went through. Now, so let's just talk about this for a moment. So basically, we are living through really truly what can only be explained as the greatest evolution of our beings ever, right? We're waking up. We are becoming innately aware of our patterns, the energies we're perpetrating, the energies we're upholding, the programming we have stored in our field, right? The things that we're doing, being, choosing, creating. And essentially we're waking up right now to the unconsciousness and the patterns we've been perpetrating, the energies we've been living in, and the world is asking us to, hey, it's time to take responsibility. It's time to change the patterns that you no longer desire to be. It's time to reclaim your space. So let's just recap here what we've been going through. Now, if you've been doing self-help work for a really long time, you might be feeling like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how much more I can take of this, right? Because it feels like, man, oh man, have you been trudging through it for so long? And really, you probably have. So let's just talk about the timeline here of what we've been living through and get really clear so we can go beyond making where we still are wrong. Okay, because that's really, really important. As long as we are upset that we're still having to deal with these energetic intensities, as long as we're still mad because we're not as far along as we think we should be, or as long as we're still kind of, I'm going to say, treading water in the same space, as long as we're making that relevant, is as long as you're going to continue to keep living in that cycle. So let's kind of look at the timeline here of what we've been living through. So if you've been listening to the radio show for any amount of time, you know I talk about this often, but I think it's just so important to revisit this because it is something that I think is hard for us to really kind of comprehend. And I know I've been doing the podcast since what? 2017, and I've been talking about this pre-COVID, all of it, and really kind of trying to get it out there that, okay, from 2012, from actual December 12th, 2012, from December 21st, 2012, we had a 9-day period. And in that 9-day period was the first time that the Earth actually moved on its axis. And it actually moved 6 whole degrees. Okay. Then from December 21st, 2012 until December 21st, 2021, 9 years, we lived through that 9-year cycle. We went through basically a massive overhaul. The Earth moved a whole bunch of times. Actually, they say the Earth moved so much that the North Pole actually became the South Pole, and the South Pole actually became the North Pole. Okay, like that's how much the Earth actually moved. Now, what that did was it changed the planetary alignment. It changed the way that the Earth vibrated at the core. It shifted the matrix constructs, actually dissipating, releasing, removing a lot of those lower 3D concepts, right? And what we lived through, especially with COVID, was basically the reset of all of the form and structure as we know it. Now, this reality would make us believe that we're still functioning in the same way we were functioning. Now, we all know that it's a little bit different, right? But a lot of the systems, like the government system, the banking system, the school systems, everything would like you to believe that everything is still functioning the same. But we're all very aware and we know everything's different, right? Nothing is the same as it was before. And that is because through that 9-year cycle that we lived through, the matrix system actually started to get dismantled. Breathe that through for a moment. Okay. So the dismantling of the system was that whole 9-year cycle. It's when the bottom got taken out of the way that we have been living in this world prior to 2012. So prior to 2012, we were all entrenched within the matrix programming. You didn't really have a choice what you did, what you chose, what you created. Basically, everything was based upon the programming that you had stored in your field. Everything that you had been programmed with is good and bad and right and wrong. And you were basically just energetically living your life from what your programs were telling you to do. Right? So then when we went through that period from December 21st, 2012 to December 21st, 2021, not only was the matrix changing, the bottom was falling out of a lot of form and structure, the veil has been lifting dynamically, right? So information is now readily available to us like we've never had information available to us ever before. And the Earth on the shift, when we first got the shift, December 21st, 2012, the Earth started vibrating at the very core as the 5D reality. And then through that 9-year cycle, the Earth slowly radiated and became 5D. So December 21st, 2021, the Earth was fully 5D. Now, we as the people are not fully 5D yet, right? We are still very entrenched in the programs and the limitations and the belief systems and the form and structure. We're entrenched within the polarity of this reality, right? We have been living in the programs of this reality. Now, one of the things that I've been doing in the Conscious Empath here is I have been teaching tools on how to remove yourself from the programming. That's really what the Conscious Empath tools have been doing. So if you've been practicing the conscious empath tools for even the last year or 2 years, or if you've taken the core program, if you've been taking any of my other programs, you know what's been happening is you have been removing yourself from that matrix 3D programming, right? Now, what happens when you remove yourself from that matrix 3D programming is you get to see that you have choice in your life. Instead of being emotionally reactive to other people, you get to actually have a choice if you go into reaction or not. And then eventually you just get to the point where, hey, you just don't have any more emotional reaction because you're no longer energetically charged. You no longer have that 3D programming within your field. Okay, so the conscious empath tools, not only did we do all of the emotional concepts, but and if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, you know that I do a lot of different concepts, right? And essentially, just here in the free stuff, I do a lot of clearings in there. And basically, it removes you from that 3D programming and allows you to be able to function in choice. Now, for me, the 3D programming kind of looks like, if you've ever been to a big city, my daughter lives in Chicago, right? And when you go to the big city and you stand, let's say in the middle of the street or something, and you look around, there's all these skyscraper buildings, right? And gosh, are they just these big, huge buildings? That's kind of what our programming looks like in our field. It's kind of like if you envisioned you were in a big city somewhere and you looked around, you could just see miles and miles and miles of these big, huge skyscraper buildings. That's kind of what your Matrix 3D programming looks like. Now, we have programming on every single concept because that is what we were born into. We were born into the Matrix 3D program. Okay. The Matrix 3D program automatically assimilated all of that programming into your field. Now, some of it was based upon past lives, right? And many of us have been here for so many lifetimes, right? And every single lifetime, every decision you make, every belief system you buy into, every single time you align and agree with something, you invoke that as a program in your field. Okay. Now, if you just think about, hey, even if you've only been here for 10 lifetimes, which is probably very, very small, most of us have probably been here in upwards of 50 to potentially over 100 lifetimes. Okay. And just think about, now I know this lifetime is a little bit different because, man, this is the first lifetime that we have ever been embodied on this planet, that we have had the massive changes in civilization that we've had, right? Just even 150 years ago, we didn't even have indoor plumbing. So not only in this lifetime did we experience indoor plumbing for the first time, but we experienced, indoor lighting and heating and cooling and, hey, taking a shower. And then just look at where we have evolved to, right? Now we're in where we have cars and internet and we're able to connect to people all over the world. And hey, you're even able to listen to my voice from wherever you are in the world, right? So we have evolved just 1,000-fold from any other lifetime we've ever been involved in, right? I should say from any lifetime we've ever been embodied here on this planet. And when I say embodied, I mean embodied in this body, because, hey, maybe you've actually been on this planet in a different body. Okay, this is the first time we've ever been embodied as a human being on this planet and had this many changes that we have had to assimilate and shift into. So what's been going on is, especially if you've been doing this work and you've been clearing out your programs, right? Essentially what's going on is it's taking down those skyscraper buildings. Okay, so maybe when you first started doing this work, you had a whole city like Chicago of skyscraper buildings with points of views and belief systems and agreements and commitments, right? And you've been working, and you've been clearing those, right? And so what happens is those skyscraper buildings come down and more and more and more. And hey, maybe some of those buildings you just leveled completely. You just don't even function in that place anymore. And maybe other buildings, you took half of it out, but you still got a little bit where you're still functioning in that sneaky point of view or whatever it is, right? Because we do have some of those belief systems that we are so entrenched in that even though we might work on it 8 million times, we might have to work on it 8 million and one before we actually get to the core belief that created that building in the first place. Right. And I know that can be frustrating, especially when you're like, gosh, I feel like I've already worked on this concept. And here it is again, coming back and it's slapping me in the face again. And again, the key right now is not to be angry or frustrated if you're finding yourself still perpetrating a pattern or still dealing with the same concept. Because the thing is as soon as you get angry because you're still dealing with the same concept that you've been dealing with, you're actually just contributing energy to it. So any amount of space that you cleared out of it, if you get angry because it comes back again and you're still doing the same thing, you're just rebuilding it. So essentially you're just like, it's almost like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? And in order to stop that pattern of going 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, what you have to do is you have to learn how to have allowance for yourself. Breathe that through for a moment. The thing is we are still living in a reality entrenched in the 3D. Now, although many of the core programs, the bottom has kind of shifted out of them, right? And they are disintegrating, they are dissolving. Many of the 3D paradigms are moving out. But the thing is they still live inside of each one of our energy systems. And as long as you are willing to still have a polarity around the concept, and that is where you're still making it right or wrong or good or bad, as long as you're going to still uphold it. And as long as you still uphold it, as long as you're going to perpetrate it. So every time you get angry with yourself about being that or doing that or choosing that again, you're just allowing yourself to continue to create it. Breathe that through for a moment. And everything, all of that is. And all of that, 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 all of that. Everything, all of that is. Can we just choose to remove all of that from all of the universes? And can we just choose that now? And vaporize, 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 vaporize. Let's just kind of let this vortex out here for a moment, because this is really important to our evolution, to our transformation, that we understand that the patterns are showing up in your life because you have the form and structure of the concept stored in your field. When you do, especially this type of work, and if you've been doing this type of work for any amount of time, you know that things do start to clear up, things do start to get easier and better, things do start to shift, right? But the key is you have to keep going. Now, let's just talk about this for a moment, because I know at the very beginning I said, I know it can be frustrating if you feel like you've been doing this work for a really long time, any work really, and you feel like you're not there yet. Again, we're not there yet because as a society, there are still so many people upholding the form and structure. In order to be free of any concept, you have to clear that form and structure out of your field completely and not have an energetic charge to it being created around you. So that means if I don't want to get angry anymore, I have to clear the anger concept from my field. Then if someone around me gets angry, I have to have no point of view about their anger. It's in me having no point of view about their anger that I do not become the effect of their anger. Now, if someone around me gets angry and they project their anger at me, right, and I perceive their anger and I get angry myself, I ignite, even if I've leveled my anger form and structure. And I'm going to tell you, if it still angers you, it doesn't mean that you've gotten to the core concept of it yet. And when I say the core concept, I mean, it's kind of like the core concept is what you've built it upon. So it's like the core belief that created it. We've been working a lot on the core beliefs these last couple of months in the Conscious Empath Master classes. We've been talking a lot about those, shifting those core energies, right? Because as long as you're still functioning within, and when I say functioning within, that means that that core concept is still in your field somewhere. It's still in your energy space and consciousness. As long as that core concept is in your energy space and consciousness, is as long as you will still be ignited by someone around you choosing that concept. So if somebody's angry, right, and you perceive the energy of anger, because it all feels the same, right? If your neighbor gets angry about something and they're outside screaming and yelling and you perceive that energy, it's either going to equally make you angry, or some people, instead of when they perceive that energy of anger, they go to fear. Some people, right? Everybody has kind of a different way that they relate to the energy, a different way that they, that triggers their program. And then as soon as you allow yourself, and I don't even want to say allow yourself because that's not the right word. It's more like as soon as it gets ignited, right, you go right to the pattern that you perpetrate. So if I perceive somebody's angry and it ignites my anger response, then I'm going to go to getting angry right with them, right? Because it's going to ignite my anger area, which is going to tell me how I'm supposed to act energetically. Now, when I do that, when I perpetrate that pattern, I actually contribute. It's almost like it gets lit up in my field. And then when I do the action of it, it's almost like I water that area. I grow that area even more. So part of changing your energetic field is understanding that every single time you re-choose a pattern, you actually contribute to the pattern continuing to grow in your field. Now, the thing is it takes a while to get to all of the programming. And here's the reality is again, I'm going to say this again. I know I already said it like 3 times, but I'm going to say it one more time because it's one of those things that's really hard to understand is we're all energetic beings. We're all sharing energetic form and structure. If I go to the grocery store and I am really have a lot of energy, let's say a lot of programs around guilt. And I go to the grocery store and there's a whole bunch of women there because, you know, we all got that mom guilt that we like to pass around like it's going out of style, right? And then all of a sudden I might pass a mom who's just overloaded and feeling guilty because she doesn't have the time or the space or the energy, and she's grocery shopping from that space of feeling guilty about not spending time with her children, right? And I pass by her and I have a similar form and structure because I functioned in that space as well, that I probably assimilated from my own mom, right? Probably wasn't even my pattern to begin with. And then I pass by her in the grocery store and it ignites my guilty form and structure. And then I go right to, oh, I feel so guilty, right? Because I became aware of the pattern, the energy space and consciousness that she was inside her field. And then it lit up my field. And instead of questioning the feeling that I was feeling, I internalized it and decided I'm just feeling guilty right now because I'm grocery shopping and I feel bad because I don't spend time with my kids. That's how we continue to pass form and structure around like it's gum. Everything, all of that is. And all of that, 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 all of that. Everything, all of that is. Can we just choose to remove all of that from all of the universes? And can we just choose that now? And vaporize, 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 vaporize. See, the thing is you've never, ever, ever been taught to question your thoughts. You've just been taught if you feel something, you think something, you perceive something, especially if it's something that we have a lot of reference points to. Like, I'm going to go back to mom guilt, right? If you're a parent, you probably have your fair share of mom guilt that you function in. It's the same with any concept. So even though you might be sitting at home thinking, oh, I've been really working on my guilt, and then something happens, like, again, I'll go back to being in the grocery store and not paying attention to what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're internalizing, and then automatically taking on a viewpoint, internalizing it as your own, and then wondering why 4 hours later you're feeling riddled with guilt. Everything, all of that is. And all of that, 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 everything, all of that is. Can we just choose to remove all of that from all of the universes? And can we just choose that now? And vaporize, 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 vaporize. So right now, what's going on, especially for those of us who have been working on clearing out our programming, is these new energies are moving through. So when the cycle ended December 21st, 2021, we shifted to a new cycle that started December 22nd, 2021. And it is also another, I guess it would probably be December 21st as well, started at the same time. Would be another 9-year cycle that we're moving through. And what we're moving through right now is we are getting pummeled. The earth is getting pummeled. I shouldn't even say that. We as beings are getting pummeled from the earth because the earth is now fully fifth dimensional and it's radiating these 5D frequencies up into the planet to tell us to wake up. Hey, wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to build new form and structure. See, the thing is a lot of those form and structures that have been dissipated, have been removed. Now you have all these like open spaces. So where those open spaces used to be is just space, right? And in that space now is all of these new energies that are moving in. These new energies, they feel really foreign. They feel, they just feel really different. Let me just put it that way. Okay. Now, the key in these new frequencies is learning how to receive the frequencies without internalizing them as an old form and structure. So let's say right now you're just feeling super energetically fried, right? Maybe you feel like your brain is mush. You feel like you can't think straight. That's because you're really literally energetically getting fried right now, like in a frying pan. Like you're just getting fried right out because all of these new frequencies are coming in and your body is receiving these higher level frequencies because your programming is low, right? A lot of your form and structures have dissipated. A lot of the places that you used to function, you're no longer functioning. So in those places, the new energies are moving in. And the old places, what's going on is it's getting harder to function in those old form and structures. Have you noticed that it takes you a lot more energy, space, and consciousness to get angry than it used to? Even though your anger might get triggered, right? After you play out that anger, what happens? You're exhausted for days, right? Because it took you a lot more energy, space, and consciousness to play in that old concept, to connect those old connection points. Now, what's key right now is these new energies are moving in. It's very important that you aren't trying to make them something else. I'm going to say that again. It's very important that you're not trying to figure them out. That you're not sitting going, what is going on? What am I feeling? Because there isn't form and structure for these new energies yet. So if you're sitting and trying to figure them out, you're going to make them, it's kind of like, okay, so again, I'm going to go back to like these new energies are like, they're not really like, they're not really any form and structure yet because the form and structure hasn't been created yet. And because the form and structure hasn't been created yet, when you start making them something that they aren't, you're going to store them as not, because what happens when you internalize something and it's not the actual truth of it. So like if I feel this new energy moving in and I go, oh, I must be feeling fear, right? Because I don't know what it is and it feels really unknown. And so maybe when I think of unknown things, I think it's scary, right? And as soon as I point it out as being fear, I take those new energies and I start storing them in my fear category. And not only do I limit the possibilities around them, but I'm going to stop myself from receiving many of the aspects of them. Because especially if I'm identifying it as fear, which is one of the things I'm seeing with a lot of people right now, people are really scared, right? I think I just did the last podcast was called Controlled by Fear, because people are really scared right now because they're receiving all of these unknown frequencies and they're not sure what to do with them or what they are. And as soon as you define them as fear, you stop receiving from them and you start making them something that they're not. And you start burying yourself in the heaviness. And it gets heavier and harder to move. And you feel more and more buried. Does it sound like something that you're dealing with right now? Everything, all of that is. And all of that, 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 everything, all of that is. Can we just choose to remove all of that from all of universes? And can we just choose that now? And vaporize, 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 vaporize. So the key is to practice allowance right now. Give yourself a lot of space. Hey, guess what? You're going to be a little bit energetically fried out. We all are. Okay, there's really not a whole lot you're going to be able to do about that, except rest. Stay out of your head. Stop trying to make things something that they're not. And stop believing everything that your mind is telling you. Ask some questions. Do some clearings. Give yourself a lot of space. It's time to wake up. Breathe it through for a moment. So making a lot of changes here at the Conscious Empath. If you are listening to this, you're listening potentially to it on a new channel. I have made a shift from Podbean to Anchor, which means expandyourreality.net will no longer be hosting the new podcasts. The podcasts will be found everywhere else. So if you're listening to it anywhere else besides Podbean, you are still going to get it. Apple Podcasts, I think iHeartRadio, Spotify, all of that. You can still listen to it at the same space. We have transferred it over. Not all of my podcasts came, only like 100, which was kind of a bummer since there was close to 200 episodes. But that's okay because we are starting fresh with new energy, new space, and new consciousness. So lots of big things coming up here. I am running the Conscious Empath Live, the core course. If you're truly ready to get really, really clear about that programming, this course is for you, okay? This course is for those who are really, truly ready to be done with the programming. The new course actually will be opening July 9th, which is a Saturday. I'm redoing the whole program. So this is going to be like a brand new program. I'm taking a lot of the same concepts, but because we have shifted so much since I made that program in, I think, 2016, 2017, and now we're in a completely different energy space and consciousness. So I am really, truly, I'm revamping the program. I have a whole bunch of very new tools that I'm going to be introducing, kind of getting all the downloads about a whole bunch of things. I'm making a whole new library of clearing programs. So we're actually going to be starting that July 9th. The actual module number 1 will be opening actually July 13th. And we will have live calls. You will get a chance to actually be or group, I should say, not one-on-one, group with me. We are going to go big places. We are going to go far. We are going to get clear about the programs, get clear about what we're moving through, get clear about the shift and the changes, and truly step into living a conscious empath life. So the core program again does start July 9th. So you have a few weeks to join us. I would love to have you. I would love to have you joining me. You can go to consciousempath.com and click that core program and sign up for the wait list right now there. Or if you go to consciousempathprograms.com, you can actually see the program there as well. It's time. It's time to master new tools to awaken not only yourself, but everyone around you. The thing is when you invest in you, everyone gets the best of you, and everyone around you changes. You came here to make an impact on this world. Join me. I would love to have you. Thank you so much for listening. I will have the Conscious Empath podcast out shortly. We're still working on some things. I am looking forward to connecting to you in the future, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. Thank you.
You have been listening to Expand Your Reality with your host, Jamie Bates. Thank you for listening.